Hi everybody and welcome to Child Development 180. We're in week 9. This week we're covering chapters 4 through 6 in your text, so make sure you take a look when you have some time. Again, I want to remind you that the entire PowerPoint for this week is located within the week 9 module or week 9 tab in the course. So when you have some time, be sure to take a look through that. I go probably a little bit faster in one sense on these voiceovers, but same content. I just kind of narrate through them. All right, so this week we are focusing in on theory and learning styles. So specifically, we'll be looking at multiple intelligences, cognitive theories, behaviorist learning theory, sociocultural theory, psychosocial theory, and moral development. You want to make sure that you do your reading because this goes more in depth in your assigned text. Additionally, I'd encourage you to do some just basic searching, basic Googling even online about these theories. There's a lot of different things you can find. Additionally, you can even find some short clips or short videos on YouTube of these. Obviously, you want to be careful because pretty much anybody can upload things to YouTube, but I would say for the most part you can find some quality videos that talk about these theories in a short amount of time. And it just kind of gives you a sense for theory. Also within the announcements this week, I posted 2 different videos for you, so take a look when you have time. All right, so the first theory I want to just kind of mention here is the psychoanalytic theory. This is Freud's theory. Likely you've heard of Freud. I know we've talked a little bit about him in our class already. As a recap, it's a 5-stage theory. It covers birth through adolescence, and each stage presents a conflict that the child must resolve. The theory is part of historical understanding of development. Though this theory is not widely accepted, it is widely known and will likely carry on through time. So I know a lot of times with Freud, if we mention Freud to somebody, we instantly get a facial reaction, a comment. Not always, but a lot of the times it's kind of a negative or kind of comments like, oh, that's a weird theory. And while you may or may not agree with the theory, either in part or in whole, it's definitely something that you want to be aware of and know about. So when you have some time, do some more reading on this theory. The next theory I want to kind of briefly go over is Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory. Again, this is something that we've already covered in the course, but as a reminder, it's an 8-stage theory, so this covers the entire lifespan, another theory with stages. Each stage is characterized by a developmental crisis. It's definitely more of a contemporary theory and definitely more widely accepted than Freud's. It's a well-respected theory, and it's applied in the field of child development, early childhood education, and just education in whole. Make sure you review this theory. You'll see some quiz questions, hint, hint on this. But again, kind of just a recap of this theory. I'd encourage you also this week when you're looking at the different theories that we're covering to not only do the reading, but kind of apply some of your work with children, school-age children specifically, with these theories. So as you're kind of reading more and more about the different stages, try to apply it to a situation or your work in general with school-age children. If you're not currently working with children, try to think of some examples that maybe you've seen or that you've read about, because I think that application will really help you kind of connect the dots. In terms of moral development, part of the big focus this week will be on Jean Piaget and Lawrence Kohlberg, both theories that you've heard of as we've discussed these a little bit already in the course. Here's some tips for you. Be aware of your own moral values and reflect regularly. Part of good practice of being a caregiver or a teacher is reflecting on your own work. And that would also include kind of your own values, your core values. Again, remember that your values can be different than mine or your peers, and that's completely okay and acceptable. We all kind of have our own set of beliefs and our value system that we have. So make sure that you're checking in with yourself regularly, kind of thinking about what's important to you, what your beliefs are, etc. Obviously, you'll want to involve children in solving moral dilemmas, so take some time to discuss and problem solve. You can do some great role modeling here, and you can use strategies such as role play to connect children to some of these situations that they can work to problem solve and have great discussion around. Again, this will kind of vary on your position and your work with children. So if you're in a camp and you only work with a set of children for maybe a week at a time, perhaps you would just kind of do some more basics. Whereas if you're in a situation such as a classroom, you will work with children for essentially a year's time, and you'll be able to kind of build on some of the role playing and some of the dilemmas that you can think through. So whatever makes sense to you and your work, try to incorporate that as much as possible. It's important to provide opportunities to interact with children and adults of different age groups. So we've talked about this a little bit already, kind of working with kind of older teens versus working with older adults. And so try your best to incorporate this depending on your setting, of course. Accept individual and family value systems, so we might not always relate or agree, but try to be at least open-minded. Of course, anything that's a safety issue, that would be rather different than just kind of the family value system overall. We work with children of diverse backgrounds and different cultures, and sometimes we might not even necessarily disagree, but perhaps it's just different than what we're used to. So just be open. You don't need to ask a lot of questions. Sometimes that happens organically. But I would encourage you at least to be open and willing to learn, especially as families want to share with you. And lastly, model the kind of behavior expected of children, not just when you believe children are watching or listening, but at all times. So sometimes we might not get along so well with our colleagues or our peers. Be aware, children are watching, they're listening, even when you think they're not. So you could be kind of just having a side conversation with a colleague or a peer, and maybe say something that kind of has a negative tone or maybe isn't so kind. Even if you think the children are not listening because they're at a table doing an activity, rest assured they are. So just be mindful of those types of things. They will watch how you interact with your supervisor. They will watch how you interact with your peers and how you interact with their parents or their family. So just take that into consideration on a daily basis, because all of this is really important. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up our Week 9 voiceover. Hopefully this has been helpful. As always, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask questions or let me know if you need any special support. Again, I've posted some extra things in the announcements that you'll want to take a look at when you have some time. I think they'll support your work this week. Take care, everybody.